Introducing our cutting-edge Smart Zoom reading glasses.
It's lucky, so I should have done this before I started. It's lucky for this. Yeah. All right, we're good to go. All right, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Bahar, Rakar, Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles in Israel, the real and teacher, to the Akims and the Iris and Byways and those pushing this word in truth, sincerity, to the brothers and sisters in the truth. Shalom to Alaya Kazak, and Yahbashim Yashar Brakafam, my brother. Good willing you're well and in best of health and spirit. Now, what I want to do, I want to play this little video clip that I was watching and just add my 2 pence worth to it. Now, the video is on Brother Assad. It says reaction to Joe's Sons of Thunder controversial clubhouse debate. We're not going to go into the debate. It's just something that a Christian said, a question that was asked. And, you know, I just want to touch that because when it comes to the Bible, you know, we understand that religion is a doctrine based upon things in the Bible, but not what the Bible actually teaches. Even today, me and one of the brothers was out on the highways and we asked someone if they believe in the Bible. And one of the things they said is, oh, you know, it contradicts itself. And yes, it does, if you're reading it with the understanding that religion teaches. But if you're reading it with the understanding that we give, everything marries together, you know, all knits together neatly. So I'm just going to play this little clip. Lord willing, it is edifying, and we'll take it from there.
Onto it.
Forward it a bit.
You got to hit play out.
Okay. You ready?
Yep.
All right.
So I'm going to ask the question again. Did Jesus Christ teach to keep the Mosaic law?
So that's the question which I'm going to address with the scriptures. But there's another bit I want to also touch quickly before I go into that. And that's 6 minutes in. So he said, did Yahushua teach to keep the Mosaic law?
Any question?
Is keeping the Mosaic law a part of the law of Christ?
And this is what they tried to do. They tried to separate the laws that we were given in the Old Testament, you know, to whatever Yahushua came and said. But we're going to see if it's separate.
I would say if you're under the Mosaic law.
So if you want to make a remote income from home.
Lucky.
Sure. Yeah.
Not what he asked.
If you're under the Mosaic law, sure,
It's not what he asked you.
but not to people who would not be under the Mosaic law, like people who would be like Gentiles or things of that nature. They're not under the same thing that the Israelites would be under. So
And the fact of the matter is right when it says that the Gentiles, non-Israelites, are not bound by the Mosaic law. But what he's trying to say is that the Gentiles in the New Testament, who salvation is open to, are not bound by the Mosaic law. And the fact is, the Gentiles in the New Testament whose salvation is open to are actual Israelites.
But didn't the Mosaic laws say that in Deuteronomy 29, even the stranger has to take hold of this covenant?
yeah, that's
And this is what I want to touch first. Before I go into whether Yahweh Shai taught us to keep the Mosaic law, because they'll use that to say, well, they're part of the covenant, etc., etc. But let's read it. This is Deuteronomy, what the hell? Deuteronomy 29 and verse 9, it says, "Keep therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that ye may prosper in all that ye do." Now, who is this covenant being spoken to? Deuteronomy 29 and verse 1. "These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel." Now, were there Gentiles that were among us when we came out of Egypt? Yes, there were. But the fact is, any nation that dwells amongst us have to keep our laws. So that covenant isn't made with the Gentiles. This is Deuteronomy 29 and 9 again. It says, "Keep therefore the words of this covenant, and do them, that ye may prosper in all that ye do. Ye stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your power, your captains of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, with all the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in thy camp." So, they'll use this to try and say the strangers are part of the covenant, which they're not. And we see that as we go down. It says, "From the ewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water." It says that thou shouldest enter into the covenant with the Lord thy power, and into his oath, which the Lord thy power maketh with thee this day. Who's the thee? Going back to 29 and 1. It says, "These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the children of Israel." So it's showing that even though there were strangers amongst us, the covenant was never with them. But being amongst us, they have to keep our laws and statutes. They can't live amongst us and do what they want to do. It says, "Your little ones, your wives, and thy stranger that is in thy camp, from the ewer of thy wood unto the drawer of thy water, that thou shouldest enter into covenant with the Lord thy power, and into his oath, which the Lord thy power maketh with thee this day, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, and that he may be unto thee a power, as he has said unto thee, and as he has sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob." So who was that oath made to? Shalom, Don Israel. From. So, and this is the thing, man, like Christians, you can't negate the Old Testament, and this is something that they don't really read. The religion of Christianity is based quite heavily on the New Testament scriptures. Deuteronomy 7. So we just read, it's like, every time I do a live, this just runs slow, so Slacky for this. So it just said, verse 13, Deuteronomy 29 and 13, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself, keywords, and that he may be unto thee a power, as he has said unto thee, and as he has sworn unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. So this is Deuteronomy 7 and verse 6. It says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power." Who's he speaking to? The Israelites. "The Lord thy power has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. It says the Lord did not set his love upon you nor choose you because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. But because the Lord thy power loved you, and because he will keep the oath which he swore unto your fathers, that the Lord as the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So who's this speaking to? The Israelites. So going back to Deuteronomy 29, when it's mentioning the strangers, yes, strangers was amongst us, but that covenant wasn't made with them, and the covenant was for us to keep the commandments. And this is to Gary. If you're not going to listen, why are you on here in the first place? That's just a stupid comment. So going back to what was said, let me drop this back.
See how nonsensical it is, brothers? So I'm going to ask the question again. Did Jesus Christ teach to keep the Mosaic law?
All right, so let's go. Deuteronomy 20, so like in Deuteronomy 18 and 18, it says, I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. And we know that this is a prophecy regarding Yahushua. So John chapter 5 and verse 30 says, I can of mine own self. So this is Yahushua speaking. It says, I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not mine own will, but the will of the Father that sent me. John 12, one more. John chapter 12 and verse 46. Yahushua again, it says, I am come a light into the world, that whosoever believeth on me should not abide in darkness. And if any man hear my words and believe not, I judge him not, for I came not to judge the world, but to save the world. He that rejecteth me and receiveth not my words, as one that judgeth him, the word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. For I have not spoken of myself, but the Father which sent me. He gave me a commandment what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his commandment is life everlasting. Whatsoever I speak, therefore, even as the Father said unto me, so I speak. So Yahushua didn't come speaking his own things. Yeah, he came to speak whatever the Father commanded him. Going back to Deuteronomy 18 and verse 19, it says, and it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. So let's see what Yahushua did tell us. Matthew 5 verse 17, and this is a verse that a lot of Christianity, or Christians I should say, misconstrue. It says, think not that I am come to destroy the law, all the prophets. I am not come to destroy but to fulfill. So they'll read this and say, well, Yahushua fulfilled the law, so we're not bound by the law because he is the fulfillment of the law. But what is this actually telling us? It says, think not I am come to destroy the law. When it says the law, is referring to the first 5 books, which is known as the Torah, which means law. How do we know? It says all the prophets. Yeah, is not come to destroy anything that's in the first 5 books or anything that's written in the prophets. Not come to destroy, but to fulfill. And when you read Luke chapter 24, it explains what he came to fulfill. Verse 18, for verily actually, red letters again, because this is Yahushua speaking. It says, for verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, We know the heaven is still here, the earth is still here. It says, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. And everything is not fulfilled that's written in the law or the prophets. It says, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments. What commandments are we speaking about? The commandments that we find in the law. And shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So is Yahushua teaching that we don't have to keep the laws? The laws, as they, as people wrongly misquote the law of Moses, because Moses didn't make up those laws. They were given to him by the Father and told to give unto the children of Israel. So that's one. I want to drop this back. And
The question again. Did Jesus Christ teach to keep the Mosaic law?
So what did he say? Matthew 9:5-19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom. Now, what commandments are these? Because we can always, they like to say they keep the law of Christ. He gave a new commandment. Matthew 19 and verse 16. Yeah. And behold, one came and said unto him, Good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? And so, what shall we do to get into the kingdom? And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments. He saith unto him, which? Yahushua said, Thou shalt do no murder. So where do we find this? In the law of Moses. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So these are laws which we find in the law of Moses. But what religion or Christians like to do, they'll go to this verse here to say, well, he gave a new commandment and this is what we have to do. So this is actually, before I go there, this is Matthew 23 and verse 1. Then spake Yahushua to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, meaning their lawgivers. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. So what are they going to be teaching? What are the scribes and Pharisees going to be teaching? Are they going to be teaching, as religion says, the new commandments that Christ was meant to have brought forth? Says, all therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not after their works, for they say and do not. So even here we see Yahushua telling you that we have to keep the laws that were written, that were given by Moses. And something that they don't understand is what sin is. Yeah. If they did, they wouldn't even be asking that question. That's John. Yeah, 1 John 3. This is 1 John 3 and verse 4. It says, Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. And what law are we speaking about? The laws given by Moses. But this Matthew, this ain't gonna be long. Matthew 22. See, red letters again, Yahushua speaking. And these are the ones which they tend to use and say, these are the new commandments which Yahushua gave. Matthew 22:36. I start 35. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him and saying, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Yahushua said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy power with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And what did they do? They stopped there and closed the book. But this is the bit that they tend to leave out. It says, on these two commandments and all the law and the prophets. So what's ever written in the laws, the Torah, and in the prophets, all Yahushua did is just sum them up into two commandments. Instead of listing everything that's there, he summed them up into two. Now, another verse that they like to go to say all they have to do as non-Israelites is just keep these laws here. This is Acts 15 and verse 19. It says, wherefore my sentence is that we trouble them not, meaning the Gentiles, which from among the Gentiles are turned to the Most High, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood. So they'll read that and say, well, this is all we were told to do. But what the apostles are trying not to do is burden them with all the laws. These were things which they were deep into, coming out of their Gentile state. They were deep into idolatry, fornication, and things strangled, and from blood. It says, for Moses of old time, as in every city, them that preaching, being read in the synagogues every Sabbath day. Yeah. Then please it the apostles and elders with the old church to send chosen men of their own company to Antioch with Paul and Barnabas, namely Judas, surnamed Barsabas, and Silas, chief men among the brethren. And they wrote letters by them after this manner. The apostles and elders and brethren send greetings unto the brethren which are of the Gentiles in Antioch and Syria and Cilicia. For as much as we have heard that certain which went out from us have troubled you with words, you're trying to burden these Gentiles, subverting your soul, saying ye must be circumcised and keep the law, to whom we gave no such commandment. And a good example, use myself as an example of that. When I came into the truth, there were certain laws, which were more prevalent that I tried to observe. Circumcision was something that I did about 5 years down the line. I didn't get circumcised straight away. And that's not something that I would burden someone new into the truth with. Maybe if you're eating unclean food, something which is easy, abstain from eating unclean food. Try and keep the Sabbath. Things like this. Keep a beard on your face. Fringes, things which are simple. Why burden them with weightier things? It says, it seemed good unto us, being assembled with one accord, to send chosen men unto you with our beloved Barnabas and Paul, men that have hazarded their lives for the name of the Lord, Yahushua Mashiach. So this is what they're doing. It says, we have sent therefore Judas and Silas, who shall also tell you the same things by mouth, for it seemed good to the Holy Spirit and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things. Yeah, so that's what they were trying not to do, lay on too much laws on them and burden them, knowing that they're coming out of an idolatrous mindset. It says that ye abstain from meats offered to idols, from blood, and from things strangled, and from fornication, from which if ye keep yourself, ye shall do well. Fare ye well. So are they saying this is all they're going to have to keep the whole time? Remember, sin is a transgression of the law. So this is something that religion don't seem to understand. They'll use the scriptures when it suits them to try and justify not keeping the law, but in the same breath they're telling you we have to keep the law. And when you bring out the law, we're not under the law. Christ is the fulfillment of the law. So going back to the question, drop this back.
The question again. Did Jesus Christ teach to keep the Mosaic law?
From the precepts that we went through, Yahushua did teach to keep the Mosaic law. And the Mosaic law only relates to Israelites anyway, Deuteronomy. Yeah. Other nations can do what is deemed sin, what we would deem sin, but they're not held accountable for keeping the law. So even in Romans, where it says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, that's not talking about everyone in every nation. It's referring to the Israelites because we were the ones that was given the law. Deuteronomy 14:21, ye shall not eat of anything that die of itself. So the example I always give, a cow is clean. Yeah. If you see a cow walking and it keel over and die, you can't eat it. But let's see what we can do. It says, thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it. So that is even a cut for Deuteronomy 29, showing you that the strangers, they have to abide by these laws because they live amongst us. But if we wanted to, they could eat things which we are not by law able to eat. It says, he shall not eat of anything that die of itself. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gates, that he may eat it, or thou mayest sell it unto an alien, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy power. So, I'm going to leave that there. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. And, in reference to the question, yes, the Awashai did teach for us to keep the Mosaic law. So, I'm going to leave it there. Shalom.